Hey fellow animators, I'm Cherny. Yes, I'm still here. I hope you are all doing alright in these times. For those watching this in the future, I hope that 2020 worked out alright for all of us in the end. What? It's been 7 months already since the last video? Jesus. At first I had written in the script for this video an explanation why there were no new videos for such a long time and what I was doing. But then I realized that you are not here to listen to vlogs, but to learn some new awesome 3ds Max CAD stuff. So let's jump right into it and skip all the small talk. Lockdowns are great for learning new stuff anyways, right? Okay, this video might seem like it's for more advanced users and too specific for beginners, but it's quite the opposite actually. I want to talk about how to properly rig the neck in your rigs, because there are several options of how to do it in CAD and we will go through all of them. And by the way, a fun side note, I can guarantee you that the information from this video you would not be able to find anywhere else on the internet. Different videos, forum posts, blog posts, like nowhere. Well, at least that was the case at the time of making this video. So CAD is a very modular rigging tool, and because of that you have almost infinite possibilities of what types of characters and creatures you can rig with it. This is good to realize because you usually have to think about how you want the creature to move, and that means also how to rig it. Birds move their heads differently than quadrupeds and humans. Long necks have different requirements than short human neck, and these differences are what the video is about. Okay, so let's go through all the options one by one. Procedural spine is a default way the CAD sets up the neck. It's the same system that is between the pelvis and chest by default. Here we have a simple humanoid rig. When we select the chest bone and hit Add Spine button, it will create a new hub with a spine. The hub will be a head in this case, and the spine part will be the neck. When you select any of the neck bones, you can see that the spine is in a procedural mode. What does this mean? Well, basically it means that when you start animating the rig, so after creating a new layer and entering the animation mode, you are only able to animate the hubs, in this case the head or chest. If you wanted to move the neck bones, you cannot. So procedural spine might seem useless then, but it actually works great for particular cases. For example, for actual spine between the pelvis and chest, I always use procedural spine. But we are talking about the necks here, right? Well, procedural spine is also great for short necks. And what is an example for that? You guessed it, humanoids. If we reduce the number of bones to 1, and then try to animate the head, you can see it works pretty well. The advantage of procedural spine is that you have only one bone to worry about, because you animate just one bone, the head. Neck bone will follow as you would usually expect, and because of that it's easier for animation. However, sometimes you do need longer necks for your creatures, or even humanoids. Let's take a look at this quadruped here. If you would use procedural spine here, you would encounter some issues in particular poses. Let's say that this is how the creature is modeled and therefore rigged. By the way, an important side note here. If you are also a modeler or somebody creates 3D models for you, always model creatures with mostly straightened necks, like this. Because it's the middle ground between the pose of eating something from the ground and looking around with head up. With a neck as procedural spine, if the creature wants to eat something from the ground, you will have a lot of trouble setting the pose right. The neck will always keep this arc, even when you would like to have it straight, as that's how most animals have it when they have the neck down. But you can see the disadvantage of this system, as you cannot animate the neck bones to fix the pose. And that's exactly why I usually use tail as neck when rigging in CAD. Select the chest and add a tail bone chain to it. Position it properly, and then for the last tail bone hit Add Bone button to add a general cat bone to it. That will represent the head in this case. Now we have almost exactly what we had with procedural spine before. But advantage of this solution is that you have all the bones animatable as if they were in forward kinematics. Disadvantage is that you now have 4 bones you have to animate to get the results you want, but it gives you the freedom of doing whatever you need with the bones. It's basically the same solution as if you would do all 4 bones with Add Bone button with general cat bones. However, when you do it as a tail, you have an option to animate it in cat's motion layers in procedural animations. At least with these 3 parameters, which is not much but at least something. With general bones, you wouldn't have this option here at all. And just for your information, I use this option for 95% of my non-humanoid characters when I rig them. I prefer this option the most as it is simple and gets the job done. The third option is to use Keyframed spine. It's set up the same way as the procedural spine was, but after selecting one of the spine bones, you switch it to Keyframed option. What this does is somewhat of a combination of the 2 solutions we showed before. When you animate the head bone, the spine acts the same way as when it was in a procedural mode. And on top of that, you can animate the neck bone separately by itself. So what's the problem here, you ask? Because it seems to have all the options that the 2 examples before had. But that is also the main issue. I don't know if it's just me, but for me, animating like this is really counterintuitive. The head bone cannot be animated separately from the rest of the neck. And here you can see that I am trying to make the head look forward and not to the ground, but it's basically impossible to do. You can try it out by yourselves, but I personally don't recommend this. It's better to do it with the tail bone chain from the second option. The last option is as strange as the tail one was. Because of how CAD works, you cannot simply set up an IK for spine, tail or general bone chains. But sometimes you might wanna have an IK for head. Any idea where? If you guessed the birds, then you were right. Try to watch any video of how birds move their head and you will know why. So because CAD has a problem of creating an IK solver for any other bone chains except legs and arms, then why not use an arm? You have to modify it quite a bit though, to place it properly. Don't forget to create an IK target to have that IK option. So now with this option, you will get all the advantages from the options we have mentioned so far. You are able to animate all bones separately, looking around is again possible without any problem. And also, you can switch it to IK and animate the whole chain with one effector. However, the disadvantage of this is that it starts to get more complicated and is more advanced. Here you should know what you are doing. You can also set it up so the neck bones scale themselves to reach the IK effector all the time for easier animation, but it's more advanced as I have said. I recommend to use it only when you have a need for it. For most cases, the tail options should be sufficient and should work well. And it's also the one I have tested the most and worked with the most. So the next time you will be doing a rig that is not a humanoid, do its neck with a tail, like I showed you in the second example. And you will find out that it's much more liberating than a procedural spine. And that's all for today. I hope you have learned something new. I am Miloš Černý and thank you for watching.